everybody. I'm Colleen from Studio Pilates, where today we're going to do the intro to Pilates. So I thought it'd be a good idea to put it out there what Pilates is, what are the 5 principles that we work around and incorporate into all movements. These are just great day-to-day things to know when you're sitting at your desk, when you're walking, when you're cooking, when you're just being conscious of how you're holding your body. These are all great tips and awareness. So the only way we can improve our posture is if we're aware that we're in a faulty posture. Once we have that awareness of what is a faulty posture that could be causing pain, imbalance, dysfunction in the muscle or in the joint, and the muscles, once we know that in our own self, we can start to work towards more of a neutral alignment where we function optimally. So what we're going to do is talk about the 5 principles of Pilates. In very simple terms, Pilates is flexible strength. So I fell in love with Pilates over 20 years ago because to me, it felt like gymnastics. It felt like the body was moving as one big muscle and it was connected rather than breaking the body into parts and pieces because it doesn't function that way. So neuromuscular training, we're working on movement patterns to become better movers so that when we do things like ride a bike, we ski, all those things are just easier and more efficient if our body's communicating well. And that's all to do with the neuromuscular system. So let's get into it. The 5 principles in Pilates. Number 1, breath. Number 2, pelvic placement. 3, rib cage placement. 4, shoulder blade placement. And 5 is your neck placement or cervical spine. So usually we take a full hour and teach these principles one-on-one because everybody learns differently and learns, some are very visual, some need to feel it, and some need different cues. So we take our time to get these principles really well ingrained prior to doing a big workout. As you do Pilates for a long time, the principles become, you'll have aha moments. You'll notice that in your body it makes more sense as you go. So let's talk, I'm going to leave breathing for the end, okay? Let's talk pelvic placements. We're talking about your skeleton. In our back, we have 3 curvatures. One that goes in here, the lumbar spine, which is a natural extension, okay, your lumbar spine. The upper back, whereas 12 thoracic vertebrae, so everywhere that you have ribs, those ribs come around and attach to the vertebrae. So we have 12 pairs of ribs, we have 12 thoracic vertebrae, and that part of our spine rounds out. I'm exaggerating, of course, but it flexes. There's a natural flexion in our upper back, and it should be there. Our neck is the same as our low back. So our neck, our cervical spine, looks like our lumbar. It extends inward, like a concave curve into the body. So we have this nice little extension, flexion, extension, and those 3 curvatures should be there. They will look slightly different every body. Some are more pronounced, right? Some are longer, different heights, things like that, so it looks different. But those 3 curves should be present, and that's where the spine is happiest. It has the most shock absorbency, and it is able to fire the nerve patterns from the spinal cord most efficiently when the bones are stacked properly, okay? So we want to work towards that neutral. We may never attain a perfect neutral, but we want to get there as close as possible, okay? And that means reteaching the body, reteaching some muscles to work maybe in a way they haven't been. So pelvic placement, when we talk neutral pelvis, I want your hip bones, the pointy ones on the front, and your pubic bone to be in the same plane, this way. So here, if we were to peel back our skin and muscle and get up against a wall, we would have our hip bones and pubic bone touching. They're in the same plane, okay? You still have your lumbar curve, and your tailbone is kind of pointing straight down at the floor, okay? That's neutral pelvis. When you're laying on your back and we talk neutral, same thing, hips, pubic bone in the same plane. Often a pelvis will be tip forward anteriorly. Okay, that's very common, which causes a bit of a lordosis here in the low back. And your hip bones are not in the same plane as your pubic bone, right? They're ahead of them, of the pubic bone. Some people are a little bit tucked under, have a bit of a sway or posterior tilt of the pelvis where the pubic bone is ahead of the hip bone. That's not ideal either. That's putting a lot of stress on the discs and the lumbar spine. So neutral pelvis is kind of the foundation. From there, we can start seeing how the hips are moving off of the pelvis and how the back is moving. The pelvis being what we call the powerhouse of the body, the center. Okay? Rib cage. Now this goes along with breathing. When you inhale, your ribs expand. When you exhale, they come back in, and they do that all day long. If you're very shallow breather or stress breath up in your chest, those ribs will not be expanding the way they should. We may not be breathing low enough, okay? But a way to find or to start to breathe, and what we call implies back breathing, is to put your thumbs around the back ribs and your fingers wrapped to the front rib cage. You're going to inhale sideways and into your thumb, so into your back. Inhale wide. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Expansion, exhale through the mouth. And you'll feel on the exhale how the front ribs weave towards each other. We want to do that. Exaggerate your movement here. Inhale into those back ribs, back here. Expansion. Exhale, front ribs come together. So rib cage placement, we want those ribs to float above the pelvis so that the upper back has a very slight and long curvature, long round flexion. And if our ribs are popped forward and out, we're going to be forcing that thoracic spine curve out of our body. We're going to be at a flat back posture. We don't want that either. Stress on the vertebrae and the disc. So we want to pull the front ribs together so they weave inward. That's going to be oblique muscle that pull them down, kind of anchor them, okay? And then pull your breath into the back lobes of the lung. So it's an inhale wide and an exhale deflate. Now remember that your rib cage is attached to your sternum, your breastbone. So when you breathe, yes, your breastbone's going to move too, and that's all good. But when you're practicing these principles, think of breathing all the way around you. So side and back, exhale, close the front. I'm going to leave ribs for now. They have a lot to do with breath, and we're just touching on these principles today. Shoulder blades. These are tricky because they don't attach to any other bones. They surf on the rib cage. So when your arm moves, your shoulder blade should move as well. They have a rhythmic relationship. So scapula and arm, the humerus bone, they're together. They're actually partners there. They move together. So shoulder blades are often winging and popping or maybe elevated and often protracted, meaning we have this rounded shoulder kind of posture and our scapula are pulled far apart across the back, away from our spine. Not ideal. Everything we do in our lifestyle, in our society, is in front of us. So we work on the computer, we drive, we cook, we pick up children, we shovel, everything, all this strength is this way in front of us. And so it's natural that those repetitive movements are going to cause tightness and continue to strengthen the muscles of the front body. And that means those elastic bands, which are muscles, in the back body continually stretch out. And those elastic bands, once they're really stretched out, sometimes they can lose their tension, okay, or strength. So we have to be sure when we're doing a fitness program or just a mobility program that we are firing those back muscles. Your shoulder blade muscles, postural muscles, all those words work, okay, but we want to make sure that we are strengthening the muscles around the shoulder blade, and that also will keep our shoulder joint healthy. If our shoulder blades and shoulder joint are healthy, that helps our neck out a lot, okay? It's all connected, they're all attached, right? One big system, this upper quadrant. So shoulder blades, quickly, just an idea. Your bottom corner of your shoulder blade, the one that will poke out, think of your shoulder blade as a taco chip like an upside down triangle, a Dorito. The bottom corner of that taco chip, you're going to gently tuck it into the rib cage. So as if you're going to scoop salsa with your bottom corner, the chip into the rib cage. You don't want to do this forcefully. It's movement. It's not work. It's just engagement work, right? Not boom, not forceful. Just tuck the shoulder blade, the bottom corner, in towards the rib cage, and you'll feel the expansion of the chest. You may even feel a pull if you're super tight, okay? We want to place those scapula on our rib cage nice and flat rather than winging, okay? So that's something to practice. You can do that anywhere, anytime when you're driving. But like I said, the only way to improve our posture is if you're aware that you're in a faulty posture. All right, so you can also think about your collarbones being very long, shooting energy out the sides. We want to avoid this really stiff posture. So on a volume dial of 1 to 10, when you place those shoulder blades on your back, on the rib cage, should be about a 2 out of 10 for intensity. It's not work, it's just a placement. All right, last principle here anatomically that we're talking about is the neck, the cervical spine. So really tricky, a lot of neck issues, absolutely. Your neck goes in like your low back, extension. It's supposed to have that curve, okay? Most of us have forward head posture like this, our ears in front of our shoulders. Ideally, the ears are stacked over the shoulder. That's ideal. We call it a plumb line that would go through the ear, shoulder, yep, just behind the knee, just in front of the ankle. So that plumb line is what we're always looking for in the body. We want to get there before we work, before we stretch, before we move, ideally. So with our neck, very messy. We got messy necks, messy mid-backs, you know, all that's connected. So as we start to strengthen the back and stretch the chest and get those shoulder blades where they need to be, that gives our neck some freedom and some leeway to move around. So head retraction is where you pull the head straight back and the ears align over the shoulders. Your nose and the pointy bone in the back of your head, they should be about level. If you're, you know, with body awareness, you're trying to figure out where to be. Okay, and we want to have this big window between ears and shoulders, never sloping the shoulders down or jamming them. They're nice and carpenter level across. And we've got this, like a fish hook attached to our head, pulling us up to the sky. All right, and that lengthened feeling through the neck and slight retraction, that will relieve some pain and pressure. Now, as you do start to change your posture and practice these things, you might find the muscles fatigue quickly and muscle memory takes over and we'll be back into our regular posture. But again, the awareness, the reminding of the body, even when you go for a walk, you know, that's a good time to practice. And it's just endurance work, just like you would do in the gym. It's just you're holding an isometric contraction, right, to teach the muscles to strengthen them. So often our neck flexors need some strengthening here, and our neck extensors back here need some lengthening to be able to bring our head back to neutral alignment. Now, talking about breathing. This is a big one. Breath is different for all types of disciplines, fitness disciplines. If you're lifting weight, let's say you're powerlifting or yoga, it's got a different purpose. They're all correct. There's no wrong way. It's just there's different purpose behind them. So for Pilates, our main purpose for breath is to oxygenate the body and encourage deep ab engagement. So with the exhale in Pilates, we breathe from down here, from the guts, okay? Our inhales through the nose, the exhales through the mouth, and it can be through pursed lips as if you're blowing through a straw, or it can be a kind of breath, an H-A-ha kind of breath. Whatever enables you to pull your abdominal wall towards the spine. So belly button to spine, and that cue is used all over fitness, all over the internet, belly button to spine. Be sure that you don't suck the belly button in by holding your breath or brace the abs. Instead, with Pilates, we want to exhale, engage abdominal wall, engage pelvic floor from below, and bring the abdomen inward. Now you have to do a forceful exhale from down low, and practice, even on your back, laying down, hands here, practice exhaling until you're empty. You keep exhaling until you're forced to inhale, okay? And just practice how that feels to engage the deep abs. It's not the same as doing a crunch. It's completely different. It's a completely different sensation. It's not going to burn. It is deep ab work of the transversus abdominis, the deepest layer, okay? Yes, your obliques and yes, your rectus are involved, the outside ab muscles, right? They have to be because the skeleton is going to move a little bit. And everything participates when we move, all the muscles. But we want to make sure that our brain recognizes the deep sensation of what that squeeze feels like for transversus. Pelvic floor below us, if you think about your pubic bone and your tailbone and then your sits bones, the pointy bones in the bottom of the pelvis, there's almost like a diamond shape underneath us, right? So you want to think about a trampoline being that diamond shape, and we want to elevate the trampoline, pick it up, all right? Rather than letting the floor sag like a hammock, we're going to lift. Now again, the biggest learning curve, I think, as I've been training clients for 20 years, is you don't know if you're doing it or not. Your brain understands what I'm saying and can visualize, can see that imagery of the trampoline being nice and tight, but is the body responding to that? That takes practice, just like anything new that you're learning. And again, the sensation of lifting pelvic floor is not like a crunch or a squat or a bicep curl. It's not that type of muscle work. It feels different. It'll feel engaged, okay, or connected. If you release it, then you go, okay, yeah, I was doing something there, but it's not what our normal, what we recognize as muscle work often. So let's pick up the pelvic floor, transversus. The trick now is to inhale with all of that connected. Exhale, reinforce it. Deflate. Inhale into the back ribs. Pelvic floor is up. Exhale, regroup those abs. One more time. Inhale into the back and sides. Pelvic floor is up. Exhale, squeezing all the way around you. That transversus muscle starts at your back, comes to the front. You got to think of it as a horizontal belt. Okay, it is a belt-like muscle, and it's going to compress and squeeze and stabilize. It stabilizes your spine. So those are the 5 principles, very quickly explained, and I hope that helps you out. These principles are not just for a Pilates workout. These are postural principles that should be taken into all your movements, all your if you're lifting weights, if you're doing strength training, even if you're sitting on a spin bike with the shoulders, you want to plug the arm into the joint a little bit and the shoulder blade down and back. And we want to practice these things daily so that we can have the best posture possible to avoid pain, to maintain our strength, to have a beautiful walking gait and balance through the body. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Thank you.